Dispenser going up. Well, I guess that'll do.
Wow, you guys really liked it when I used the Undertale soundtrack for the last time I did a panic attack montage. Well, it's not my fault that the game has some of the best music for killing people too, okay? The story of the panic attack is like the story of any other movie hero. He started off as the underdog, weak and overlooked, but full of potential. Then, as the movie progressed, he improved himself little by little, and a glimmer of hope began to shine down. Then, the training montage starts, and all of a sudden we see this guy go from being complete garbage to actually a decent threat in less than 60 seconds flat. What the heck? That's what happened with the panic attack. It used to be bad. Probably one of the most useless weapons in the game. You couldn't even control when you started firing, so it basically was like a worse version of the stock shotgun, which you get for free when you install the game, so what was even the point of using it? Well now, after the Tough Break update, you can load the shells and hold them, which is a simple change, but it makes all the difference in the world. It makes the panic attack not useless. Does it make it good though? No, not necessarily. The panic attack is still at that stage in the movie where he's trained for the big fight, but he still hasn't stepped into that ring and come out on top. So the panic attack is like pre-fight Rocky, almost good, but still needs to overcome a big change by proving himself to truly become the one health hero. So let's go over the stats for this shotgun to get an idea of what makes the gun so darn interesting. The panic attack reloads 50% faster, it deploys 50% faster, and the firing rate increases as the health decreases, and so does the weapon's bullet spread. But the most unique part of the panic attack's mechanics is that it loads the shells before it fires, which means that you have to prepare to shoot before you can actually start doing damage. The panic attack is an unlockable shotgun, which means it can be equipped by every class that uses the stock shotgun, but it goes without saying that I will mainly be talking about how the engineer can use the panic attack and whether it's a decent unlock for him specifically. Now, I could go into the difference in firing speed, damage output, etc., compared to the stock shotgun, but I think the concept of the weapon is a subject that will give me more than enough to talk about in order to get across what is both good and bad about the panic attack. To put it plainly, this weapon is useful in a way that I don't think was even intended. If you look at the stats, you can kind of assume that when Valve originally designed the gun, they took the concept of the beggar's bazooka and just applied it to a shotgun, which is pretty neat if you ask me, especially now since you can keep the shots loaded until you wish to unleash them upon your enemy. But for some reason, they didn't stop there. They obviously wanted to make this gun into a panic weapon, hence the name, so they added a mechanic where low health equals faster yet messier meat shots. They want us to use this gun as an, oh shit, I'm about to die, better use my panic attack kind of thing, but the fact that you have to take a second to actually load the shells in before you can even start firing completely goes against that playstyle. If I'm low health and about to die, and I'm somehow unable to continue using my primary weapon or some other form of damage output like my sentry gun gets destroyed for example, I'm gonna want to start firing my backup weapon as soon as possible. Any other shotgun is perfect for shooting right when you take it out, but the panic attack simply does not allow you to do that, which is pretty weird considering they obviously want us to use it in a pinch. Waiting for your shells to load is just not a good situation for when you're in a pinch, and usually if you're at low health and need to defend yourself, chances are you're still being fired upon by your attacker anyway. So in order for this gun to work the way it's supposed to, you need to be able to either do some skillful dodging while you load your shells or run behind a corner or a wall for a second so you can jump back out when the gun is loaded. Hopefully in that time the enemy will have totally forgotten about you and isn't just waiting for you to come back with your low health so they can just one-shot you before you can even close the distance to land a decent meat shot. Because with the way the panic attack works, in order to actually be rewarded with faster firing, you need to not only be at low health, but you need to be right up in their face, which is never really an ideal situation. So yeah, the panic attack is obviously intended to be a last resort weapon, but it has stats that seem to counteract each other. How can you consider this a true emergency gun if you have to wait to use it? It doesn't make much sense to me. But hold on, don't go deleting it just yet. In fact, why are you even considering developing that strong of an opinion before the video is even over? I mean, come on, the panic attack might not be useful in the way that Valve intended it for it to be useful, but what about in the way that Valve didn't intend? Combat shotgun. Yeah, I found that the panic attack is a fantastic combat engineer weapon, specifically for ambushing people. The base firing speed is slightly faster than the shotgun, even when you're at full health, so if you use it kind of like an assassin would, it can be pretty useful. Load your shells up and try to flank people, get right up into their backs and unload 4 shots into them before they can even turn around and react. Peek around corners and bait people to come chase you, then bam, surprise them with some rapid fire shots that you already had ready to go. And because the panic attack technically doesn't ever need to reload, you can go on sprees where you don't really need to take a long break from firing. It's similar to how the Beggar's Bazooka can work, but also how you can use the Widowmaker if you can land your shots. In fact, you can kind of call the panic attack the Widowmaker for risk takers, because it's a powerful weapon in the hands of someone who can not only land their shots, but it also rewards people who take risks because of that low health for faster firing thing. So when you look at the bigger picture, it turns out that the only real good thing about the panic attack is using the preloaded shells to take people by surprise and do massive amounts of damage quickly. Every other stat on the shotgun is just a slightly useful bonus for very specific situations that you probably don't want to go looking for anyway. In other words, you should be using the panic attack primarily for its loading mechanic and not its low health rewarding mechanic. Compared to other classes, the combat engineer actually gets a lot out of using the panic attack because unlike most of the other classes that can equip it, they have the ability to be sneaky. They can get behind people and kill them quickly before they can turn around and retaliate. You don't want to take damage, but if you do, I guess you have an answer for that. So the panic attack, it's almost there. It's almost the gun it's supposed to be, but right now, it's just a side grade that you can use for a certain playstyle. Maybe if Valve were to do the thing they did with the Equalizer and the Escape Plan to make 2 weapons out of 1, it could be pretty decent. Like, for instance, if it were up to me, I'd make the panic attack fire 4 shots normally without having to preload them so that when you're at low health, you can actually retaliate without having to wait a second. Then make a completely new weapon that allows you to load up to 4 shots before firing, but doesn't increase the firing speed or the bullet spread when you're at low health. Then we can have the best of both worlds, a shotgun that correctly rewards using it in a pinch, and a shotgun that rewards preparing your shots before you fire them, without that unnecessary risk-reward BS. It's just an idea, but until then I'm pretty much only going to be using the panic attack as a backwards loading combat shotgun and not much else. Well, it's also fun to sentry jump into people with it. So the panic attack is a pretty fun, unique engineer side grade, but it still is the equivalent of pre-fight Rocky. He still has a lot of potential and might someday be a contender, but it still has a lot to prove. Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you nieces and nephews next time. Bye-bye.